Welcome back. We're still in Chapter 7, and now we're moving to current liabilities management. And there's 3 things on the list. So this is my debt. How well I handle my current debt. Current means less than 1 year. How I manage it. I want to minimize my obligations. So short-term debt management, accrued liabilities management, and accounts payable management. Accounts payable is when I owe people. So let's take a look at short-term debt management. This is actually whenever I might go to the bank and want to borrow money. Okay, bank lines of credit, notes payable, accounts payable, short-term loan for 1 year or less. All of these are obligations I owe, things I actually have to pay. And I want to make sure that I don't get into debt unless I absolutely have to. Now, as a business owner, you might set up a line of credit with the bank. It's similar to a credit card. So you might have a line of credit somewhere where when you need money, you can borrow it. Or when you might have a line of credit with a supplier. Okay, usually a line of credit is set up at your primary bank. Whenever my cash flow is short, I borrow temporarily from it and I pay it back promptly. So that is basically short-term liability management. Now, accrued liabilities are things that I owe, obligations that I'm going to owe, payroll, mostly taxes. This is mostly taxes here. Payroll taxes, benefits, property taxes. I need to know when I'm going to pay them, how much they're going to be, and I need to make sure that I manage them properly. Next, we're going to look at accounts payable management. Remember, this is when you owe a supplier money for buying product on credit. Okay, so there's different types of things. We'll talk about that. There's a trade discount, there's a cash discount, and there's a quantity discount. So really quickly, let me tell you, a trade discount happens before you buy the product. A cash discount happens after you buy the product, or if you pay cash, it depends. And quantity discount says the more I buy, the cheaper it will be. Okay, so let's talk about each one of these individually. So a trade discount is usually done from a list price. So you'll be given a list of product and their list prices, but based upon your volume that you buy from this supplier, you may be able to buy 30% off a list. Okay, so I can offer a single discount like 30%, or I can put it in a series of 30, 20, 10. So let me explain how this works, because right there, I know you're thinking 60% off, but that's not how it works. So let's take a look at this. So if I have more than one trade discount, here's what happens. It's list price minus the trade discount equals the discounted price. So if I have a 30, 20, 10%, and the product is $300, I'm going to first calculate this at 30%. Okay, so basically, so 300 minus $90. So this is the 30% you're subtracting. So really, you're paying 70%. That's going to equal 210. So now I'm going to take the 210 and go to the 20%. So it's 210 minus the 210 times 20%, or $42, and now I'm at 168. And then finally, I have a 10% discount, so they'll calculate the 168 minus 168 times 10%, and I'll end up paying $151.20 for something that was $300. Now remember, if you had looked at it and said 30, 20, 10 is 60%, 151 is a little bit more than 50%, or a little bit under than 50%. So this is how to calculate a trade discount. Okay, so, and what really, this just talks about what I just talked about. The 50.4% is really what it ended up being. So there's a couple ways. If I'm going to do it, if I'm going to use just a single discount, it's much easier to do. So I want to talk about an easier way to do this. This is the easier way to do this. So this is a simple way to do multiple trade discounts. Remember, I had 30%, 20%, and 10%. So I'm going to find the complement of each one. So 30%, the complement is 70%. So I'm looking for two numbers that equal 100%. So 30%, the complement is 70%. 20%, the complement is 80 or 0.80, and 10% is 90. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these three numbers, I'm going to take the three complements, multiply them together, and I'm going to get the same percent I would if I'd actually just calculated a minute ago. Okay? So let me show you the bottom half of this now. So we know it was 5004, and if I went over here and calculated, it would be 5004. So look right here. So 300 times 0.504 is 151.20, which is actually what I would be paying for it. Okay, let's move on. I'm almost done with this chapter. I just have a few slides. A cash discount is basically offered when you pay early. So that's like that 2% 10 net 30. So you're going to give me a cash discount if I pay you sooner. Very important. This is after the discount. Okay? 2% 10 net 30 is extremely popular. This is the one most used. Okay? Even if I have to go out and borrow the money to pay you earlier, I'm still going to save money. Trust me. So we look here, we look at a $10,000 invoice with terms of 2% 10 net 30. If I pay it off in 10 days, it's only going to cost me $9,800, which basically means I saved $200 or I increase my profit $200. Okay, so I'm not going to go over all of this. I'll let you calculate because I want to finish up this. This just shows about the calculations on a cash discount. Okay, I'm going to skip this slide and this slide and go to quantity discounts. We already talked about in real life, the more you buy, the cheaper the price. So it's very beneficial for you to consider looking at your annual usage for things and enter a long-term contract for maybe, in this case, maybe 500 pieces to get a better price and take them in smaller increments. This is something that's negotiated in purchasing. This concludes ACCTGFS465 Chapter 7 PowerPoints.